Welcome back to the Bluegrass on this beautiful summer day. It's about 90 degrees. We just got done with clients, so we have a couple of hours free, so we thought we'd make you a video. Today's video topic is related to an email that I get all the time. That email reads something along these lines. Hey Stonnie, I see a lot of Labrador Retrievers in your videos. Why do you like Labrador Retrievers so much? Well, when I get those emails, I used to try to answer every one, but I get so many emails now, I'm swamped, guys. I just can't possibly answer all your emails. So whenever I get a question super consistently, I try to make a video about it. As I went to writing down some little notes this morning, trying to get my thoughts organized and get a little framework to what we were going to talk about on the video, I quickly realized that sometimes, my ability to talk and my ability to write are just too drastically different, okay? I can't myself with my own words do justice to how awesome I think Labrador Retrievers are, okay? I'm just not that good with words. I'm not that eloquent. So I went over to my bookshelf and I got a book, and this book is The Labrador Retriever by Richard A. Walters. It's out of print now, but you can still find them if you look, in the used bookshops and stuff. And Mr. Walters, he's a very eloquent man, and so I'm just going to read you some excerpts out of this book as we go through this video, and I hope that my reading skills aren't gonna, make his words sound too bad. All right, but this is why I like Labrador Retrievers. The Labrador is the king of retrievers. He may not be the handsomest or the strongest, but he is the king. He is intelligent, but not cunning. He's lovable, but not soft. The Labrador Retriever is loyal, but not a one-man dog. He's gentle, but not a dog to be backed against the wall. He's a romping fun fellow, but won his crown as an honest worker. The Lab is as much at home on your bed as he is calmly sitting next to an Illinois pit blind, undaunted by a cutting wind. He's the waterfowler's first choice, but he is also a fine upland hunter. He'll give you the sportiest woodcock hunting possible in Maine, and he'll unravel the tricks of Iowa's pheasants. He may not be the fastest swimmer, but if you send him for a crippled goose on the eastern shore, he won't quit. He's truly the hunter's dog, and yet when he comes into this world, he doesn't have a hateful gene in his body. Now obviously that fella can write a whole lot better than I can speak, and I hope I didn't butcher his work too much. But the reason I read you those passages is because I feel like Mr. Walters does an excellent job of capturing what I consider to be the Labrador Retriever's strongest attribute, which is its versatility. I'm so lucky. I get to see dogs from the West Coast, from the East Coast, from the Heartland, from up in Canada. I get to do online journaling with Labrador Retrievers all over the world. And the one thing that I can tell you for sure is that no matter where you put a Labrador Retriever, if you raise them with patience and persistence and consistent application of solid strategy and technique, you're going to end up with a very nice dog that can play pretty much any role that's demanded of it. Clients contact me with the widest range of expectations you can imagine. It's always nice to be scrolling down through that email and notice that they are either in the process of acquiring or have acquired a Labrador Retriever puppy, because Labs excel at adapting to the broadest range of environmental conditions. So I know if somebody's getting a Lab, right off the bat, we got a pretty good chance of being successful in the long run. Now, what do those expectations look like? I mean, they run the gambit. Sometimes it's just a, it's just a young family with young children. They're like, hey Stonnie, can you get this dog to behave well around the children and our friends, make it where you get in the minivan, go to soccer practice or the school activities and behave, calmly, attentively, and politely? I'm like, yeah, sure, that's awesome. But sometimes the husband maybe will send me a little email on the side and say, hey Stonnie, like, the wife, she really cares about the manners, but I want to be able to go to the dove field or get in a duck blind and show off from my friends. Can you help me with that? And I'm like, sure, dude. If it's the right kind of Lab, they excel at that activity. And then on the other end of the spectrum, I get the overachiever Lab owner, right? That's the fella that all he does, he hikes, he bikes, he runs, he shoots, he hunts, and he wants a dog that can keep up with him as he's doing all his alpha male activities, right? It's a great dog for that too. Now, granted, I mean, there's a little bit more to it, right? You have to get the right kind of Lab for the activity that you expect to engage in. But hey, listen, the bottom line is, the dog that can handle the broadest range of expectations is a Labrador Retriever. And so what we're going to do in this video is we're just going to get out a few different types of Labradors. I got a whole bunch of them here that are 15, 16, 18 weeks old. And we're going to show you what I mean about how they're versatile, okay? So some of these dogs are here and we're doing specific marker training with them. Some of them we're doing traditional training. Some of them we're teaching to shed hunt. Some of them we're getting ready to be gentlemen's retrievers. Okay, so we're just gonna get them out, we're gonna work them, and we're gonna talk about like the owner's expectations for the dogs and what I believe the owner's chances of success are. All right, so follow along. We're gonna have a good time training a bunch of lab puppies. All right, Birdie, have it your way then. Guys, like what I'm chuckling about and why this dog is wet, you know, just let me give you some insight into the kind of behind the scenes of the dog video business. So here I am trying to make you a video about what I like about Labrador Retrievers, and I'm droning on and on about their versatility and their ability to perform under various social demands and environmental conditions. And I literally, wait, just got held hostage due to an environmental condition. And what I mean by that is that, yeah, I went over there and I kind of like said, hey, hey, Birdie, pop up on the table and let me put this leash on you. And she just looked at me like I was kind of silly. So I thought, well, maybe she didn't hear me, and I patted the table, and instead of running towards the table, she decided she was going to run and sit by the pool, basically telling me that she was refusing to work until she got a little bit of pool time. And I understand, you know, but it does kind of make making the video hard, because here I am talking about their versatility, and yet, you know, the dog decided it didn't want to perform because it's a little bit too hot. That's understandable, you know. Like, dogs can be versatile, dogs can be good at doing a lot of things and meeting a lot of different demands, but you always have to keep in mind that the dog is a sentient being and it has its own needs and desires, and you have to, you know, you kind of have to meet it in the middle. You can't just expect everything to be one-sided, and that's a big problem with obedience training. Is a lot of times we have a tendency to think in terms of what we need out of the dog, but we don't think in terms of what the dog needs out of us. Now, Birdie's a very lucky dog. She has an owner who is, he gets to go biking and hiking and boating and hunting and, you know, just do all kinds of fun stuff. And our job with Birdie is pretty much simply to get her to where she has a good vocabulary, a good set of physical skills, good impulse control, good attention span, and she's ready to meet the demands of various environments, you know, throughout North America. And that's going to be pretty easy for us, okay? But again, just because something's easy for us doesn't mean that it works 100% of the time, okay? Because it doesn't. And so, like when I'm doing puppy training, you know, most of the time, come on, most of the time when I walk over there next to that table, puppies hop right up on that table and they're ready to go, you know? But not every time, because they have their own needs and desires, okay? And so basically what Birdie was telling me when she refused to get on the table was that I was treating her unfairly. And listen, as she gets older, like, she's going to have to understand that sometimes I'm going to ask things of her, come on, up, that she considers unfair, and she's going to have to comply with my wishes. But when they're young like this, I do my best to take the time necessary to show them not just that they have to comply, but to go ahead, meet them halfway, and teach them why it's in their best interest to comply. And that's all I did with Birdie. I looked at her and I thought to myself, well, you know, I can let this turn into a battle of wills, and I can try to make her get up here and do what she needs to do, or I can meet her halfway, let her cool off in the pool, and you know, then she'll probably be very compliant on the course. And by making that small compromise, I was able to get her to get out in this 90-degree heat and you know, perform with come on, with a pretty high degree of speed and precision for a 16-week-old dog. So guys, over the course of the rest of this video, like, I just want you to watch the different dogs and notice how I try to set expectations that are appropriate for each dog and each situation, but always understand that your situation is unique, and all these things are just guidelines to kind of help you work out the stuff that's best for your family. All right, now we'll work Sailor. And work is kind of that's kind of a flexible term as it relates to this kind of lab. Come up here and look at his head there, cameraman. You guys see this big old square head and this big square body, these giant feet? Okay, this kind of lab's bred to be beautiful and loved on all the time. And so they're really good at being beautiful and being loved on, but they're not always so good at doing the work. So you have to be a little bit more liberal with your pay. In a lot of my old videos, you'll notice me calling these dogs chubbies, like English chubbies, and that's exactly what this dog is. He's super fun and super easy to get along with because basically he sees his job as just sitting around and being good looking, and it works for him. You know, people come down to my kennel and they'll see a puppy like this, and there might be 10 other puppies that are more athletic, that are like at higher levels of training, that are working harder, that are wanting to fetch and wanting to like, go swimming or whatever. They'll walk right past all 10 of them and come over here and start loving on this guy. You know, like I said, just look at him. Come here and look at him one more time, cameraman. Oh. So basically, like this dog sees all the other dogs that are working really hard. You know, he sees them get passed up for attention to be paid to him. And so he's smart. He's internalized those principles. So when you ask him to work, he's like, nah, I don't think so. I'll leave that for the peasants, you know. But he's doing pretty good. You just have to kind of pay him a little extra, and you have to cut his work up into shorter increments, you know. Like so, like say I maybe on some of these other labs, like say a field bred lab, I can come out here and I can work them. We can go around the small challenges course, then we can work on some retrieving, then we can go back and we can do some exploring, all kind of in one continuous session, okay? With Sailor, what we have to do is we have to block that out into individual events. So we'll kind of do the small challenges course, and then we'll put him up, and then we'll go out and do a little exploring, and we'll kind of put him up and let him have a break, you know. And then a lot of times, oh my gosh, when we're just doing free time, he just comes out and, you know, kind of lays around in the shade and is pretty much on the down low until somebody comes, right? And then out of nowhere, here Sailor will appear, he'll just kind of prance by. And what happens every time is people go, oh my gosh, he's so pretty, and they'll want to love him and pick him up. You know, and so, you know, you can't blame him for responding to the incentives that are provided in the environment, right? He knows I don't have to work hard, I just have to be good looking. And I guess that's really just the way life works, right? You know, that's why I'm out here working so hard. All right, I'll get another dog. All righty, now we are going to work with Maggie. Come on, Maggie. Maggie is what's known as a fox red Labrador Retriever. Up, up. And they're another kennel favorite. They get lots of attention down here. Remember how I was talking about Sailor and how, like, you know, people will see that blocky head, the big chest, the big feet, and they'll go love on him a lot? Same thing happens with these fox reds. People just love them. They just think the color is just amazing. So Maggie's another one of those dogs that gets a lot of attention. But unlike Sailor, Maggie loves to work. You know, and that's pretty typical across the spectrum of fox red labs. It's kind of brings me to this point where if you're going to think about getting a fox red lab, there's two very distinct personality characteristics that you need to understand. Come on, come on. The first one is that they have a tendency to be wiggle boxes when they're young. And what I mean by that is they're very, very emotionally sensitive dogs. And when you get them out for training, good dog. They tend to wiggle and waggle and just be crazy, you know. And so sometimes people will mistake, you know, that type of overexcitement for, you know, being like disobedient or scatterbrained or something. And that couldn't be farther from the truth. They're awesome dogs. You just kind of need to do a little bit of pre-fatiguing when they're young before you start in on any type of complex obedience training protocol. Now, the other thing that you need to understand about fox reds is that they have a tendency to go through what are known as late-term fear periods. Come on, hop, 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 hop. And what that means is that sometimes these dogs in the mid to late pubescent phase will just suddenly get afraid of things. I mean, it's the same dog that you've been getting in the car and out of the car since it came to your house at 8 weeks old. Always loved going in the car, always loved going to soccer practice, always loved, you know, meeting new people. And then one day they just wake up and they're afraid. Okay, and that fear can manifest itself in a few different ways. Come on, come on, come on. One of the things that happens is sometimes they'll kind of start to do a little bit of what's known as submissive urination. Like people will come up to pet them and they'll pee on the floor a little bit, and that can be a little, you know, that can be a little disheartening. It can be a little bit aggravating. And the other thing that happens with them a lot, I mean a whole lot, is they get scared and they start barking. They hackle up and they start barking, and they can kind of look ferocious sometimes. And so, you know, people will email me and they'll be like, Stonnie, you know, I've got a fox red and it's been perfect. They'll send me pictures and videos of the training. They're on a good solid, come on, up, good solid obedience program. And they're like, what did I do wrong? You know, has all my training been for naught? You know, like, is everything lost? I'm like, nope. Nothing's lost. This is very typical with the breed. And so if you'll just be patient, stick to your guns, maybe increase your exercise level a little bit, then it's all going to work out. It might take 2 or 3 weeks to work out, or it might take 2 or 3 months, but it pretty much always works out. So that's the kind of conversation we have to have with a client. You know, so like the fella that owns this dog, he lives out in California. He's from, I guess what they call the Bay Area, right? Now, honestly, I don't really know what they do in the Bay Area, and I'm not necessarily sure that I would approve if I did know, okay? But whatever, you know, he contacted me, come on, and said, hey, Stonnie, if I send my dog to you, you know, can you get her to where she can pal around with me as I do Bay Area activities, which is, I guess, I don't know, drinking coffee, going to Antifa meetings, whatever they do out there. And I was like, sure. But I had to go ahead and explain to him that these dogs, when they're young and you take them out, if you take them out without exercising them first, they might spill somebody's coffee, they might jump on somebody, they might pull on the leash some, and then just be ready for during the mid-pubescent to late pubescent period for maybe a late-term fear stage to pop up. Okay, so other than that, these guys are absolutely perfect, and we love them, and we always enjoy getting them here. But they do have, like I said, those 2 very specific breed qualities that you have to be aware of so that you don't get disappointed later. That's the biggest thing, guys. If you know you're going to have trouble with something or potentially have trouble with something and you prepare accordingly, then it's never a big deal. So I'm here to tell you right now, if you have one of these little dogs like this, just expect when they're young for them to get a little excited and maybe not be super precise with their obedience at first, and then number 2, when they're in that mid to late term pubescent stage, they might get a little scared of stuff. Don't worry about it. It all works out in the end, and you'll almost always end up with a perfect dog. Come on, Gus. All right, now we have Gus, and Gus had to jump in the pool a little bit before his section on the video. Now Gus is awesome. He is one of those wiggly waggly over exuberant labs, and his owner had him on point before he even got here. The way my in-kennel training program works is you kind of sign up either before you get the dog or right as you get the dog. Then I share some instructional videos and a training journal with you. You follow along with those videos and journal your progress in the training journal, and I kind of monitor and provide feedback as necessary. Well, some of the people that take this course, they're overachievers, okay? And Gus's owner falls into the overachiever category. And Gus has a really interesting life ahead of him, actually. His owner is a flight instructor. And so basically, once we get this dog's manners lined out, his whole job is simply going to be to go to the airport and lay around and get petted on, and then teach people how to fly. So, I mean, how can a dog have any better life than that, you know? Just go hang out and fly around in little private airplanes all the time. Okay, now, when you're working a dog like Gus, you know how, like, there's this saying that dogs love to please. And for the most part, guys, that's not actually true. What I always tell people is that the exact same percentage of dogs just love to please as wives. They're out there, but it's not a very big percentage, okay? Gus is one of those exceptions that proves the rule. He just loves to please. Notice I'm not doing any treat work with him. We're just walking the course. He just comes out here and he's like, hey, Stonnie, let me make a deal with you. Can I do a couple of laps in the pool before we start work, and then maybe a couple of laps in the pool after work? I'm like, sure, is that all you need? He goes, that's all I need, boss. You know, just give me a little free time, give me a little fun activity to do, and I'll be right there when you need me. And from a dog trainer's standpoint, there's no better dog to have at your kennel, you know. I don't ever have a day where I come out and say, hey, Gus, you know, would you like to do this now? And him say no, which is, you know, directly juxtaposed to the other dog, Sailor, you know. Like, imagine you have 2 very distinct personality types. They're both labs, and they're both capable of, you know, performing well in a wide variety of situations. But one of them is so convinced that they're special that they never want to work, right? And one of them is, you know, so intent on being a part of a team that all they ever want to do is work, and that's Gus. So, you know, I'm kind of on this Labrador Retrievers are the best train, of course. You know what I say, like all dogs want to be labs, all labs want to be black. But the reality is there is a lot of distribution of personality types amongst labs. So even though they're all versatile, you do want to make sure you choose a bloodline that matches up with your expectations. And so like this dog here, oh my gosh, his owner could not have picked a better dog, because this dog loves to go and he loves to work, and the guy wants to take him to work. So man, I mean, that's a 360-degree win. All right, now we have Remy. Come on, Remy. Now, Remy is a little bit more complicated case than any of the other dogs. And what I mean by that is Remy's owner has expectations of him that are on both ends of the spectrum. Remy's owner is a very active person, likes to hike and bike and shoot and do all that kind of, you know, fun outdoor activities, but he also happens to be a dentist, you know, and one of the reasons that he bought Remy was as a comfort animal for his dentist clinic. And that's getting real popular now. You're seeing more and more doctors' offices have dogs, and guidance counselors, dentists, you know, just anywhere where there's liable to be kind of some stress in a situation, a dog can go a long ways towards helping to alleviate that stress. And so, you know, the fellow that owns him says, hey, Stonnie, I'm gonna get this dog, I'm gonna take him to my dentist's office, but I also, you know, I want him to be able to go do fun activities. And I said, well, sure, we can get a dog to do all of that stuff pretty well. But here's what you have to accept. If you're gonna get a dog that's a jack of all trades, he's gonna be a master of none, okay? Come on, Remy. So for a dog like Remy to be able to go to the dentist office and work an 8 or 10 hour day, just being calm and quiet and, you know, letting people love on him and kind of dealing with the emotional toll that it takes to be around, you know, people that are scared or upset, that requires a very laid back, come on Remy, a very laid back temperament and a very kind of low to moderate energy level, okay? So he's not going to be the best hiker in the world. He's not going to be the best boater, the best swimmer in the world. He's not going to be the best fetcher in the world. Doesn't mean that he can't be good at all that stuff. It just means that you have to have, you know, definitions of success in those activities, come on, that are appropriate for this particular dog's personality. I'm going to go ahead and walk him around the course one more time so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. Now, it is about 90 degrees out here today, and you'll notice a lot of these dogs are wet because they're kind of wanting to get in the pool to cool off. But the fact that he's black and the fact that he's kind of low energy by nature, you'll notice he just really is kind of going slow around the whole course. I don't have to talk about him making mistakes out of exuberance because he's not going to make those kind of mistakes. You know, you don't have to worry about this dog going in the dentist office and getting so excited that, you know, that he jumps on a new patient. That's not going to happen, okay? But now on the flip side, when the sun's out, he's going to be hunting for shade. Notice that every time we walk by a shady spot, like he tries to go over there and get in that shady spot, that's just what you're going to get. So again, getting back to my idea that labs are the most versatile dog, right? You still have to pick a dog that's going to meet your expectations. And if you're going to want them to meet expectations on both ends of the excitement spectrum, then, you know, you're going to have to, come on, then you're going to have to admit to yourself that the dog's not going to be perfect at both ends. That's just not how it's going to work. It can be good at both ends, right? But you're going to have to do a little bit of redefining and reframing to really be happy. Good boy, very nice. So with this dog, you know, when we're doing our journaling, you know, I'm just going to constantly be reminding his owner that the dog's first and primary job is to be awesome at the dentist office and help alleviate the anxiety that people feel in that office, you know. And then everything else is secondary to that. So if he, you know, if it's not the best fetcher when you go outside and it's hot, don't sweat it. If he doesn't want to go on a 5-mile hike and act excited the whole way, don't sweat it. As he matures and gets in better condition, he'll easily do a 5-mile hike. But is he going to like be looking forward to it and want to do it every day, like say maybe Gus? No, he's not, okay? So it would be unfair to hold him to that standard. But are you going to take Gus and put him in a dentist office for 8 or 10 hours at a time? No, that's not going to happen. So yes, labs are versatile, but we have to have expectations that are appropriate for your individual dog.